Hello, welcome to Nintendo Nostalgia. I'm your host, Jacob Rush, and I'm joined by my co-host, Chris Warren, and we are back, and we are playing with Power. How are you doing, Chris?
I am doing great. 2021 is off to a much, much better start than what we were going through last year, so I'm doing really, really well. How are you, Jacob?
I'm doing good, and speaking of good starts to 2021, we actually have a legendary old-time friend of the show, and his name is Old Man Chris. Welcome back to the show, Chris White. How are you doing?
Hello, Jacob. I'm going to be try not to be offended by being called old. My children call me that now, so I guess I can accept it. Man, thanks for having me on, dude. This is great. It's been a while, you know. I survived Snowmageddon. I live in Texas, you know, so we've had a crazy, new Chris. Chris 2.0 mentioned how the year got off to a better start. I'm not sure about that because you haven't been to Texas. But,
man.
It has been good. Man, I'm glad to be here. I'm pumped for the show. I'm pumped for the stuff we're going to talk about, and I just appreciate you having me on, man.
Yeah, I'm glad you're doing okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, for sure. And, speaking of, I guess not everything has been great for 2021. If you are a listener of the show and you follow similar shows in our podcast family and community, it was reported on Monday that a good friend of our show and in the community, a staple, Bobby Pauls, also known as Nintendo Guru, has passed away due to his battle with COVID. And it is very heartbreaking to us, all of us at Nintendo Nostalgia. We've had time to process it. Ryan and I were really close with Bobby, and we are going to be releasing, he's been on about 4 episodes with us here in the past, and if you're new to the show, maybe you've missed those, we're going to be reposting those in honor of him so people can go back and check those out. Bobby, this show would not exist without him, and I fully am ready to talk about Bobby more. Next week, Ryan and I do plan to do a dedicated episode to Bobby, and that will be next week's episode. So we want to share the love for him. We'd like to do just a moment of silence here for him, and before we get started on this show. All right, so with that said, guys, I think it's time to get into what we have been radical rexing about. Okay, well, Chris, old man Chris, so we don't get you guys confused. Why don't you just the first time you've been back in a long time? Why don't you kick us off here, man? What is exciting in your world, man?
Yeah, let's jump in. It's a Nintendo podcast, right? And I'm going to talk about something not Nintendo. So I finally jumped into next gen with an Xbox. I got an Xbox Series X. Now I've anybody who knows me knows that I've been an Xbox fan for a long time. I've had Xbox, the original 360 and the One. Had an Xbox podcast for a little while. So nothing new. But I didn't really jump in last year to the next gen. I was really happy with my Switch. I didn't really, there was nothing there that was pulling me that I really absolutely had to have. So I just kind of, let it linger out there a little bit. And so yeah, but I finally, my birthday's in February, and I finally pulled the trigger. And for my birthday, I got a Series S. I got it last week, and so I've had about a week with it, and it's fantastic. It's really great. Cool. I love Xbox. I love the ecosystem. I love Game Pass. It's absolutely the best thing in gaming, and being able to play around with next gen. It's been fun. It's been really cool. I will say this to bring it full circle. It does really excite me for what a Switch Pro could be. In the fact that I don't think the Series S specifically. I know the X has a little more horsepower, but I don't think the Series S is like a giant leap. There's a lot of quality of life stuff. You're having locked 60 frames, which is great. You're having quick loading and quick resume, which is fantastic. But it isn't like a giant generational gap like we've seen in the past. And I feel like that's kind of what we're going to get when the Switch Pro does finally come around. Is going to be a very similar feel, but just with snappier, processor, faster, a little better looking, and so if that's what the Switch Pro is going to be, and it pays off like the Series S has, I'm pretty pumped for what it's going to be.
Very cool. I like how as soon as you said Xbox, young Chris here got up and just left.
Yeah.
No, I heard everything.
New Chris.
So what are...
He's a PlayStation guy. I know that. And that's fighting words here because old man Chris
I am not
a PlayStation.
I am not at
you're
all.
not?
No, I just think that you're a little too harsh on PlayStation. I am not a Sony fanboy by any stretch, but
all that PS3 love confuses me. I guess
it confuses me as well that you don't understand it. But Chris, I have a question for you. What are some games that you've been playing?
They've never made a good console, so it's hard to be excited for them.
Wait, what?
Well, this could be a great debate episode one day.
Yeah.
Sorry, you were asking me a question, Chris. Go ahead.
Yeah. So what are some games that you've been playing on Xbox? Because I am really intrigued by the new direction that they're taking, with this new generation, and I think Game Pass is really interesting. I'm not really sure how I feel about it moving forward, but so what are some games that you've been playing lately?
Yeah, it's funny because honestly, there's not really a lot. I would if you haven't been in the ecosystem before and aren't really familiar with it and have a lot of a big library, I would say that right now may not even be the time to jump in. But there's tons of just fantastic games on Game Pass if you've never played, games that are there. But to answer the question, honestly, today I bought Scott Pilgrim for the third time. Nice. The remaster, it's fantastic. I absolutely love that game. But I play Sea of Thieves a lot with my best gamer friend James Michael the Jet Ski. Those who may,
James, friend of the show.
That's right, friend of the show. And so we're big Sea of Thieves fans, and we absolutely love that game, and we play that a lot. Gears. There's been some new DLC for Gears that came to Game Pass, and so playing back through Gears and Gears of War. Sorry if you don't know what that is, I presume. But yeah, I mean, as far as like brand new games, I do want to play Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's not a game that I've been able to play until I got the new Xbox, and it's on my list, but I haven't bought it yet. So there are a couple of games from the fall that I'm interested in. I know that Cyberpunk is going. It really kind of floundered at the start, but it's supposed to be getting a Series X, /S kind of upgrade soon. So I'll probably jump into that when it comes in. But honestly, it's just, you can't say enough about just logging into Game Pass and having 150 games. And they all range from quality, but a lot of them are very, very good games, and just be able to immediately download them. EA Play is now a part of that as well. So you're getting like Jedi Fallen Order actually in March. I think next week they're adding Star Wars Squadrons to EA Play, which is part of Game Pass now. So there's just so much out there, to kind of jump in and to play with. But
yeah, I think it's a very cool proposition that they have with that service. I'm not really sure how it's going to be, moving into the future, like how it's going to branch out and how they're going to really capitalize on it, and if it's going to be the norm. But as it is right now, like, it's such a great deal for any type of gamer. So I am really thankful that, Xbox gamers, I don't want Xbox gamers to suffer or whatever, but I'm glad that they have that service and that they have a lot to offer, because, they had a pretty rocky launch with Halo being delayed. So, it's pretty cool that they have that Game Pass service. Yeah,
but they know first party is coming. I mean, that's why they're buying the studios. I will say this though, man. I'm still not ruling out Game Pass coming to Switch. So guys, just I think that would be a huge slam dunk. I mean, you see them playing nice. They brought Banjo over. You got the Ori games. So there's some talk there. And if you could get Game Pass loaded, cloud gaming on, I bought. So I've been playing mobile. So I bought something called a Backbone, which is just a little a little grip that goes around your phone. And I've been playing, remotely on my phone, and then it's great, but it still just doesn't have the feel of a Nintendo product. So if I could pull up my Switch Lite anywhere that I am and play Game Pass games, like that would be amazing. So I'm still holding out hope that that's coming. But anyway, Game Pass is fantastic. It's the absolute best thing in video games.
Cool. I'm glad you're enjoying your new console. Very cool.
Yep. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Well, young Chris, what about you?
Oh, you. So let's see. I got my second shot on Thursday. Not gaming related, but it's such a relief to get that. I don't have to make any more appointments, and I can begin the process of getting my life back, So it was kind of a huge milestone for me in that way, and I'm just so grateful for that. So that was a huge milestone for me, and I'm really thankful that that is out of the way, and I can begin the process of moving on with my life. I also have spring break coming up, so I haven't been on a vacation in like 10 years, so I am looking forward to that. I think I'm gonna go to like a nearby city and just like relax for like a week, try to visit some friends safely.
Cool.
So gaming wise, I have not had time for gaming. I know I say that a lot, but in about like 2 weeks when my internship is over with, I think I'll have a lot more time. What I have had time for is Killer Queen Black. I absolutely adore Killer Queen Black. I don't know if I've mentioned it before, but it is just the funnest arcade game ever, and I'm not a fan of like online multiplayer games outside of Splatoon. So I'm really digging that.
Cool.
And I also got a few games in the mail the other day. So one that I was playing right before I got on here is called Tanuki Justice, which I never heard of before. But it was a really cool like physical release, and it's like, I don't know, like a really cute version of Ninja Gaiden. And it's like It's really hard, but like the music is so good. It looks amazing, and it has like this like Sega feel with like a mix of like a Ninja Gaiden and Mario feel. But I highly recommend it. It's just like a really fun, I don't know, platform brawler or something. I don't know what you would call that game, but it reminded me of Ryan because you're like a Tanuki guy. So yeah, but that's it. Yep. Not too much otherwise. How about you, Jacob?
Well, I have quite a bit. I actually haven't been on the show in a few weeks, and I've got a little bit to talk about, especially from last week. I finally just bit the bullet, and I bought Ring Fit Adventure. And
I saw it on the wall behind you. That's crazy.
Yeah. It's I bought it and I love it. I actually was very fascinated by it. I've been past about a month and a half to 2 months. I've been getting back regularly to exercising and eating better. So I'm getting there one day at a time. And I thought, well, this would be fun to just incorporate, because the way I view it is, it's just kind of like an enhancement to add to my actual workouts. Then when I come home from the gym, I love to do like, you can set up your own routines with it, and I'll do some like burner stuff just to really get your heart rate up, and some cardio and some abs. And I usually try to emphasize on, like, if I just did my chest and triceps, I'll put a routine together on the game that focuses on just wearing out my chest and my triceps, and then it's just really fun. And the story mode's fun. It's it's nothing deep, but it's cool. It's cool, the concept, and I really just am impressed with it. I wish I could get like a weighted ring con so I could like add weight to my exercises just to increase them.
All right, Goku, settle down. All right, there's no time chamber.
Jacob,
all right?
you know what you could do? You could just do like weights on your wrists instead.
Yeah, that's a good point. I'll look into that. Yep. Good. Thanks for the suggestion. That's a great idea. I didn't even think of that. Mm-hmm. The only issue I have with it is like sometimes when I'm doing like a core exercise, like I don't feel like that it is not accurate with like the strap being wrapped around my leg. It'll like mess up and say I'm not doing it right, or all I have to do is like just bend my knee completely, and then it'll say I did the exercise right, and I'm like, just sitting there with, like, I've tested it out,
Maybe your legs are just too manly.
Probably, or just too fat right now, I guess. So I've had a couple issues. In general, though, it's been pretty good. It's really fun, and that's why it's like I'm going to, like, tomorrow I'll rest, and I don't view it as, like, again, my main exercise, but it's something to just keep you active, keep you going, burn some calories, and when you just make fitness and part of your lifestyle, it no longer becomes like this dreaded, like, oh, I gotta get this in, or I'm not reaching my. It just becomes a part of your life, and you naturally start to just be healthier and in shape on a regular basis.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. I really am enjoying that. And then the second thing I'm radical rexing about is last Friday. Last week I got my tax return money, and I also got my stimulus check because I never got that. I came at the same time with my tax money, so I had a lot of money come in, and plenty that's being saved. But because of that, I did decide I decided to buy my girlfriend a Nintendo Switch. I bought her the Mario edition because she always comes over and she plays my Switch, and she was was a casual gamer, and she has like a 64 and stuff. But ever since she met me, like she's just kind of naturally started to look into what's current, and has borrowed my Switch to play through Mario Odyssey, and she beat Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze on it, and she's tested out so many other games like Luigi's Mansion 3, and she's just in love with it. And she was texting me last week about it's like after I showed her Ring Fit Adventure, and she's like, man, I wish I just had my own Switch because I want to, it's like I just want to play Mario Odyssey all over again. Like she enjoyed it that much. She's obsessed with the game. So I decided on Friday, I went out after I got off work and I bought it for her. And I was taking her daughter out on a date so we could like bond and just spend some time together. So my initial plans was to just go on a date, and she was going to be by herself. Normally, like, we're hanging out on Friday night. So to keep her occupied, I gave her Switch, and she was just stunned and cried, and it was really cool. And I helped her get set up, and it's all connected to the internet, and I started a family plan with my Switch, so she's on that with the online. So it's just really, really awesome to see somebody that is genuinely excited to play a Switch, and is like, she's playing games now for the first time that, we already experienced over what our main topics about of the past 4 years of these games. And it's fun to watch her experience everything for the first time. And she's just really happy to have a system that's her own. And guys, it's just such a cool feeling, and I'm happy for her. And that's really what I've been radical rexing mostly about. So really, really cool stuff.
That's awesome, man.
Great.
Thank you. So outside of that, we do have a listener phone call, a voicemail that we want to play. We do know of the long email. We have a really long email that we just have not been able to. We want to dissect it and read it as hosts and think about the best way to respond. So we're not going to cover that one today, but we are going to do our voicemail. So Chris, go ahead and play that for us.
Sure.
What's up, NOS crew? This is Isaac. Just want to give you guys a shout out and say thanks for taking all my calls. I hope you guys aren't tired of me, but keep having different topics, different things that just like to call in and talk about. I appreciate you guys touching on the direct. I agree with everybody because a lot of different things going on. It was kind of a well-balanced, but I agree with Jacob about the disappointment too. I was quite disappointed in Skyward Sword being full price. We were expecting maybe a bundle with Twilight Princess, possibly Wind Waker, like we did with Mario 3D All-Stars. But to release a game that's about 10 years old and do full price, it kind of rubbed me the wrong way. And it might be here recently I've gotten more into Nintendo again. I did take a break there, just life happens, but part of it was little things like that that Nintendo does. It can be frustrating. There's great things that Nintendo does as a whole, but then there's things like that can kind of rub you the wrong way. So Overall, I thought it was a decent direct, but there was some disappointments there. Some things I'm looking forward to, though, on that as well. I wanted to ask you guys, though, off topic of that, what is your favorite indie game? Maybe a game that you've gotten on Switch Online. It could even be back on Wii U. I was going to say there's a recommendation. I got A Short Hike recently, and it is a very short game, but it is worth it. It is one of the best games I've played in recent memory, just the experience. I probably beat it in about an hour or two. When I say it's short, it is definitely not a long game. But I don't know if you guys have had a chance to play it. If not, I highly recommend it. And also want to get your recommendations on any maybe games that are cheaper, maybe $5-10, but they're really good experience while it lasts. Anyway, appreciate you guys taking the call. You guys take care.
Thank you so much for calling in, and and you basically agreed with me about the direct and that. So I mean, I agree with what you said, and you are right. Nintendo sometimes, something that's going to hit it out of the ballpark for me, someone else is going to completely hate. So they did a good job as a structure of a direct, I believe for sure. I just wasn't too much into the content, we'll get into I want to hear everyone else's response to that, and then we'll talk about our favorite indie games. But old man Chris is chomping at the bit. He hasn't done this in a long time.
I'm glad I wasn't on last week's show. What are you, crazy? That direct was fantastic. Oh man, you're killing me. I think Nintendo fans sometimes are super entitled and are out of their minds.
He's not wrong.
Look, yes, Breath of the Wild 2 is never coming. Like anybody who thought that was there, it's your own fault. Metroid Prime 4 doesn't exist yet. I mean, that game's still 2 to 3 years away. If you thought that was going to be at the Direct, that is your own fault. Like, set your expectations. And if you go in with actual expectations, they did a fantastic job. As far as I was laughing as I was listening to it, the whole uproar about Skyward Sword being the same price. How many of us just bought Mario 3D World? It was a full price game, and Skyward Sword is like twice as old. Like, come on. Yes, do I wish it was $30? Absolutely, but it's Nintendo. It's never going to be that way. For me, Skyward Sword is the only Zelda game I love Zelda. It's probably my favorite series of all time. Skyward Sword is the only Zelda game I've never actually completed because motion controls were absolute garbage, terrible, and I felt like I would have to cut my hands off if I kept playing it. So I'm super pumped to actually be able to play the game like an actual normal person. So I'm excited for that, and I'll pay for that. That's fine. Like I will pay for Skyward Sword. That didn't bother me at all. What did bother me is the fact that the Joy-Cons just sold out. I don't want to talk about that. But no, I thought it was good. But at the end of the day, the only thing that matters is Mario Golf. Mario Golf is going to be my game of the year without question. I cannot wait. I wish it was here now. If it was here now, I would not even be on this podcast. I would just be playing Mario Golf. That's all I think about.
Wow. There you have it, Chris. Young Chris.
So I'm basically, I can really get used to that. I'm kind of like in between the both of you. So I thought the Direct was okay. I love Splatoon 3, I love Splatoon, so I was really excited to hear about Splatoon 3. I don't know, I'm kind of like mixed on Skyward Sword. I think it's great that it's getting ported and that they are figuring out a way to have the game playable without motion controls, which is something that obviously a lot of people had issue with. I also hope that they from what I hear, kind of temper down Fi, whatever her name is, because, I understand that she pops up a little too frequently. Right. So I hope that gets addressed, and that seems like it could be something that's easily resolved. So I don't know, but outside of that, I just thought they had a lot of pretty interesting, weird, kooky games. I know that Jacob and I were watching it together. He didn't have too much interest in a lot of those, but that's okay. And what I think that they did nail about the Direct is that they had so much variety, that there was something for everyone. Yeah. So for some people, there was a lot for you. Sure. For some people, there was something for you. There had to be one game that at least piqued your interest a little bit. So That I think is the beauty of this Switch. It's that, you know, we're not just relying on like one Mario game per year or that Metroid Prime sequel. It's that we're getting a whole bunch of stuff, and no matter who you are, you know, you can join in on the fun, and you're bound to find something to love. I think that's all the thoughts I have
Jake,
on that. Let's talk about indie
hang on.
games.
Let me say one quick thing. I do think we're going to get those Zelda games. The caller mentioned, you know, Twilight Princess, you know, the worst Zelda game ever made, and Wind Waker, you know, and I absolutely think that over the course of the year we're going to get those games. I mean, Wind Waker was already ported in HD, so there's no reason that's not going to come. So I do think those are going to come. I think they're much less of an announcement because Skyward Sword has never been re-released. And a lot of people didn't think it was possible to ever do it without motion control. So I think that warranted kind of that conversation. But I do think we're going to get, you know, those others for sure.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah, totally.
And I do want to, you know, just capitalize on it, even though I wasn't impressed with how I thought the game looked in the trailer.
Mario Golf, man, come on.
Mario Golf is going to be fun, and I'm going to get it. I haven't gotten a golf game since the Toadstool Tour on GameCube, but.
I mean, like, golf is golf, you know? Golf is the same game that it was in 2003. Golf is the same game that it was in 1993 with other golf games. So it's pretty, and I hope they add a lot of variety to it. But
I'm just looking forward to being able to play it with people, you know, like past Mario Golf games.
Sure.
I know there was one on the DS, but I never had it, but, you know, I just never got to play with anybody, so I'm excited to be able to play with others. But Skyward Sword... for how many people actually say they could not play it on the Wii makes me feel maybe I'm tooting my own horn here, but I'm pretty good at games then because I loved that game on the Wii and I beat it through and through, and it is definitely one of my personal favorite Zelda games. I loved it, so I'm glad it's getting a second life, and I don't have any issue paying $60 for it for the record on that. So
I'm with you.
But to the indie games, we can go back around the other way, starting with young Chris to old Chris to me. So, what about you, young Chris?
I mean, I'm sure we'll touch on this a little bit later, but something that's really awesome about the Switch is that it turned Nintendo into being a platform that indies kind of avoided into one that everyone needs to be on if you want to be legitimate and be profitable and have a substantial audience. So I am thankful that we have so many indies on the Switch to pick from. So it's hard just to pick one or a couple even. I would say I would like to definitely mention Killer Queen Black, the game that I mentioned before. If you're looking for online multiplayer, it doesn't get any better than that. It is timeless. It is so easy to understand and pick up and play, and each match is just a few minutes. It's easy to play, but difficult to master. And there's all these different tiers that you can go in the game. So, highly recommend Killer Queen Black. I'm a huge fan. I also love indie platformers. I'm not big on like RPGs and all these other strategy games. I just don't really have time for that personally. I appreciate that they're there, but it's just not for me. But there's a lot of incredible indie platformer games on the Switch that are phenomenal, and many of them are not getting the attention that they deserve. Splasher is outrageously, incredibly polished and amazing. It's basically a 2D Splatoon platformer in a way. It's just amazing, and it's actually getting very high up there in price physically. Jacob, I know you and I love 3D platformers, so A Hat in Time obviously is just as good as it gets in that genre at the moment. And one more game, actually two more quick games I'd like to bring up. Tiny Barbarian. Barbarian is an amazing 2D platformer. It was published by Nicholas or Nicalis, however you say it. And it's just like the tunes are amazing. It's, retro style. It's perfect for what it is. And one game that has a very strange name, but it's just so fun. It's called Assault Android Cactus Plus. I don't know what that name is about, but it's basically like a shoot 'em up. It's like a 3D shoot 'em up, and it's just the music's insane. The levels are so creative and inventive and wild, and it's so good. So yeah, please check those out. There's just so many to pick from, and I just love the Switch for that reason.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I'll echo exactly the same thing. There's so many. So we could take the whole entire show talking about it. Before we came on, I asked my kids what their favorite game was on the Switch, just because I knew we were going to be talking about it. My 14-year-old daughter plays almost nothing but Stardew Valley. So I'll mention Stardew Valley as an indie game. It is fantastic, but a lot of these people should know. So SteamWorld Dig 2 is absolutely the best SteamWorld game and one of the best platformers. Celeste, probably the best platformer probably on the market right now, at least from my perspective. But again, a lot of people know that. Hollow Knight's out there, another great Metroidvania type game. I would say Golf Story. I think that a lot of people, especially in Switch world, know that game, but it is a Switch exclusive. It's actually on my top 5, which we'll talk about in a little while. But Golf Story is one of my absolute favorite Switch games, and it is an RPG about golf. You guys notice a trend here with the games that I like. So it's it's great, but it's super fun. It came out, I believe it came out in the first year, but if not the first year, very very early in Switch life, and it was absolutely great. Sports Story is coming up soon, and I'm so excited about that. And then the only one that I'll mention too, they're kind of there's a game called Murder by Numbers. Do you guys know this game?
Yes.
It's
What's
the
it's very cool.
Picross? So it's a Picross game. So if you know what Picross is, you're just basically unlocking a picture, based on like numbers. Just look it up. It's hard to explain, but you're basically unlocking it's a puzzle game. And but Murder by Numbers takes the puzzle formula and then puts it in like this murder mystery type story, and it's indie and it's not like pop art, and it's super fun. And if you like Picross, it kind of because Picross itself is literally just go from picture to picture to picture, but this kind of like weaves a story with it, which is really cool. So I love it. And then the last one I'll mention is probably my favorite indie game, and most people don't know it, and that's why I wanted to mention it, was Chroma Squad. So I don't know if you guys know anything about Chroma Squad. Chroma Squad. So my absolute favorite type of game is strategy RPG, and so I'm a huge Advanced War fan, Fire Emblem fan. And so Chroma Squad is basically turn-based strategy RPG with the Power Rangers, and I'm a giant Power Ranger fan. If you guys, so you guys know Jacob, so I love Power Rangers the way that he loves Diddy Kong Racing. It's very idiotic, and there's no reason that any real person should like Diddy Kong Racing, but for some reason there are people that do, and and that's how I am.
How dare you, sir?
I mean, Diddy Kong is
guest.
terrible. It's terrible, but a lot of people say that about Power Rangers. And I love them. So, but anyways, so you're making your own studio to make your own Power Rangers show, and each level is basically just an episode of that show, and it's just strategy RPG, and it's super funny and very campy, and they just poke fun at Toku and the Power Ranger shows, and it's a ton of fun. I think it's like $14.99, so it's like $15, and it's great. If you like strategy RPGs, highly recommend it.
Cool.
Yeah, I hear really good things about that.
Well, you see, I had to make sure when we exchanged old Chris for young Chris that he loved Diddy Kong Racing, which you can see the great divide here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised you found anybody that actually did like it. So I'm impressed. Very good.
It was hard.
I'm actually a clone of you. They just upgraded my brain to like Diddy Kong Racing.
Yeah, we had to do some.
It has to be some sort of augmentation, because no person with a real brain would like it. So.
Except for me, but.
I don't think you've ever played it, so you can't have that kind of an opinion.
Yeah. You might have played the DS version, which
that must be what I played.
Okay, is not the best. I will say that. Okay, for me, this is kind of a great question as we segue into our main topic, because I have a lot to say about indies on the Switch. But first off, I've never even heard of the game you mentioned. It was like a short hike or something like that.
Oh, a short hike is great, man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I'm probably going to go look it up and buy it just because when anyone talks that way, it really intrigues me about a game. But
yeah, it has good reviews.
As I'm thinking, so my number one, can maybe combo these together because they're similar of the game, but Undertale changed my life. I mean, from a gaming perspective, the game literally blew my freaking brains away, and I did not expect that. I didn't expect that you look at it. It's a JRPG, and I traditionally hate JRPGs, and the game emotionally touched me, and it really shook me. So I'll throw Deltarune Chapter 1 in there as well, because there's differences, but a lot of it is the same structure for that. And I have bought multiple people copies of Undertale because I want them to play the game that bad. I think it's just, you have to experience it. And I get really sad when people give up, because I'm like, truly, I feel like to understand like the depth of the game, that the stuff that really just blew me away, it's when you get deep into the game, and that's what I loved about it. So then I'm going to throw out Yooka-Laylee and the Impossible Lair. It was just a fantastic platformer. We have Tropical Freeze from Nintendo, but these are the guys who made the original DKC trilogy, and it's basically like we got a Donkey Kong Country game, just in the form of Yooka-Laylee. It's a fantastic game. If you've not played it, go get it. And then I personally loved the first Yooka-Laylee, and I know not everyone did, but it was definitely a throwback to Banjo-Kazooie, and it really just made me smile from ear to ear and brought some nostalgic feelings back. Same creators for that as well. And then I'm going to throw in for Metroidvania, Iconoclast. I think is just probably one of the best games.
You made me play that game, by the way, Jake. I love that game. That game is great.
I did. That was your must get game of that year.
That's right. That's right.
It was a hidden gem I did not expect to play, and truly, I've been re-listening to the soundtrack over the past week or so, because we got Josh to get it in our group chat, because he never played it and it was on sale. So those are probably the top indie games that I would recommend for anyone to get if they have a Switch.
Yep.
Yeah, there's something so magical about indie games, because it's just people who are so passionate about their vision, and they just go all out for it without any restrictions, without any like corporate ties, and people holding them back. And it's just really cool to see these labors of love come to fruition, and just made by people who just want us to enjoy these experiences that they have in their mind. So it's so refreshing. We're not used to that on Nintendo platforms, and for all the best ones to really be there and available, and for very reasonable prices, it's just a whole new world for us. So I hope people kind of step outside their comfort zone and explore the great indies that are available on Switch.
For sure.
Yep, agreed.
Yeah. And also, thank you, caller, for bringing up A Short Hike. A Short Hike is phenomenal from what I hear, and it's a very, very cool concept. So definitely go out and check out A Short Hike. Hike.
I'm going to buy it as soon as this episode's over. So. Well, with that said, let's get into the main topic at hand, guys. It's going to be all about this Nintendo Switch turning 4 years old. Chris, Josh couldn't be here with us tonight, but Josh did send us a quick little message. If you want to go ahead and read his message. Ryan did not send anything. He's going to be forever banned from the show until I see otherwise. So, but thank you, Josh, for participating. What did he say?
So Josh has told us, while the Switch has some strange omissions after 4 years of being out, such as access to more classic games, themes, and a more stable online connection, there are plenty of things it does right, such as its new games. It's hard for me to pick a favorite, but just a few hard hitters that come to mind are Breath of the Wild, Mario Odyssey, Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, Animal Crossing New Horizons, one that I personally love very much. That's his note, not mine. Mario and Rabbids, and more. Here's hoping more great times are to come.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for chiming in there, buddy. And we're going to talk about our games, but Man, there's so much we could say about the Switch on its fourth birthday. Can you guys believe it? I remember watching that crazy laser show as we all waited for Nintendo to take the stage, and we're like, "What?" There's like a DJ, and we're like, "What the heck is happening?" I remember watching it, and dude, I was just so blown away. This was a big moment for Nintendo because coming off the Wii U days, I mean, at this point, Nintendo was the laughing stock of the gaming industry. People would not take them seriously. Iwata had just passed away shortly before all this, and we were just banking, dude. It's like your team just drafted the star QB from the draft, and you hope that this is the miracle that your team needs to become a legit contender again. And let me tell you, I believe it paid off well. And I mean, Chris, you have the sales numbers for Nintendo, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Why don't we start there?
Sure. I mean, let me just touch up on what you said. I just remember in the Wii U era, there's this rumor of the NX, and everyone's like, "What is this NX? Like, what are they going to do next?" Because the Wii U was, to many people, and I guess like objectively a failure, but I loved it, and I was like, what direction are they going to take where they're going to still have that Nintendo charm, but they're going to be successful in the masses? So there's a lot of rumors that it was going to be able to have the ability to switch between the TV mode and handheld mode, and we're all just like, nah, we're not there yet. Like, there's no way it's going to be able to do that. And then when we saw that reveal video, like that fall, oh man, all of us were just like screeching and like jumping out of our chairs, and and we saw Mario and 3D and Breath of the Wild, and we'd be able to take things on the go, and it was just so refreshing to see them like listen to us and kind of understand what we want as gamers, and for us to now 4 years later be able to play and experience the dream that we've always wanted to have. It's unreal, really, to take a step back and really see that. But this direction has really paid off for them. So if we're going to go back and talk about sales, the Switch so far has sold 76 million copies of the Switch. That includes both families, the regular Switch and the Switch Lite. And so that means, I did the math for this, that means that through just console sales alone, they have made $15 to $23 billion just on home console sales. Which is outrageous. I also have info for the top games and the previous top Nintendo consoles, if you want. But if you want to touch on just the sales right now, feel free.
Yeah, we'll stick with I think just the Switch sales at the moment. But that's a feat, guys. That's insane. And some people think I'm crazy, but a part of me thinks that if it keeps selling, like it's not even slowing down. Like that, I could see like people being like, "Oh, okay." I could see it's tampering off at a certain point, but a part of me wonders, and this is just my own personal thing because I'm a Nintendo fanboy. I would love it if it. What if it? Do you think it realistically could surpass the PlayStation 2 with the holding record of most? Because the reason that sold so much because it was the first console that had a DVD, and a lot of people bought it for that DVD player combo. And I just wonder if the Switch can surpass that with it still 4 years in, and it feels like it's selling just as well as it did when it first came out, if not better. What do you guys think?
I don't think that it will, realistically. I think the potential is there. But, like you mentioned, the PlayStation 2 was very unique in that it had a DVD player, and we just wanted a cheap DVD player at the time. So I don't think the Switch, has something that comparable to a DVD player in that time. But at the same time, Nintendo has this unique ability to come up with something that we didn't know we needed, and they're very experimental, and they introduce things that are just so wild and out there. And we've seen it in the past where they take a console that seems to be doing not too not the best, and they make it a huge seller. I didn't think the DS was going to be that much of a seller. That went on to be the second best selling console of all time. So the potential's there. I don't think realistically we'll get there unless they really throw us a curveball. But we'll see. What do you think about it, Chris?
So, I think that one of the things that we often overlook when we talk about things like this is the giant risk that Nintendo took by marrying their two hardwares, and the fact that even in the lean years with the Wii U, the DS and the 3DS were such powerhouse systems that it really it was bad, but it wasn't terrible because they had that. And so kind of pulling the plug on having two systems to kind of rely on at least one of them doing well and throwing everything at the Switch was a huge risk, and it paid off. And well, I probably agree. I don't know that it would get to PS2 numbers. I do think it has the ability to, and the reason I think that is because Nintendo is great about making games that are accessible at any scale, and so now we're just, it's just becoming an indie machine. I mean, I mentioned Golf Story earlier. I mean, Golf Story could be played on probably a Game Boy Advance. I mean, it probably couldn't. I know that was, I'm being hyperbole, guys, but The idea is that you have a system that can continue to go, and what Nintendo does really good is separates themselves from the pack. And so PlayStation and Xbox have a very focus on, we want to give you the most pristine, visual quality, 4K, 8K, ray tracing, whatever. And then Nintendo just wants to give you absolute fun. And that is what they sell. And so with that, I think that the Switch itself, 10 years from now, is still going to be getting amazing games if people make them. I'll buy Golf Story 4 in 10 years, if they continue to be of the quality that the first one was, right? And so I do think it has the potential, it has the legs, because the hardware is built around great experience, and the fact that you can throw it in a bag. Like I just told you, I bought an Xbox, Series S. I still probably play my Switch, and probably will play my Switch more, because I can just throw it in a bag. It's with me all the time. It's just ready to go. And having that sort of degree of portability and flexibility is huge. And so I do think there's potential there.
Yeah, I think you bring up a good point with its versatility. I think that would be the main factor that would decide how successful it becomes. But my worry is that they're focusing more on the Switch Lite, which is not as versatile. It's just like a portable thing, which is fine. But, the appeal of the Switch, at least originally, was that you could play anything you want, any way you want. And if they really lean into that with some pretty clever, unique Nintendo Magic ideas, I think there's potential there. But at the moment, I think they're just focusing on the hardcore. Yeah. What do you think, Jake?
Well, I let me just say this real quick before you jump in, Jake. The only thing I'll say, and I agree with you, I prefer my Switch, and we'll probably talk about that in a little while, because I did flip to the Switch Lite for a while, and I came back, and we can have that conversation. But I will say, if they can make deals work like Game Pass, now imagine every Xbox owner that doesn't own a Switch, if you tell them you can pick up a $199 console, have an amazing portable experience of your Game Pass, you now have an install base that's going to come in, and they don't want the full thing because they're going to play their Xbox, But if you can guarantee that you're going to be able to have that library that you're already paying for now on the go, that's a huge win. So again, I agree with you, but the Switch Lite is the better sell if you are trying to sell to an audience that isn't going to play as its primary console, which actually may be a win in his column.
No, that's very clever.
Well, and Nintendo likes to focus. They want to own Japan, and they are owning Japan, and they want to continue to feed that crowd, which is just way more portable crowd than
and Splatoon 3 is going to murder next year over there.
Yes,
it's going to be insane.
It will. So they know what they're doing, and it's it's the Western crowd, I think, that gets more up and down on this was a great direct and this one wasn't for me type of thing. Seems like everything in Japan just dominates over there. They know their home base, which is they should know their home base. I will say I think the potential's there, especially if we can talk about a Switch Pro down the road and what that could potentially offer. But guys, I want to know. I want to take a deep dive. This show's all about nostalgia. I want to talk about what was your first thoughts? Okay, the system came out in March, but I believe it was October is when Nintendo tweeted up that creepy picture of Mario looking behind a curtain, smiling at you, and then saying like to tune in. And they had a video that they wanted everyone to see, and it was the announcement of the Switch and that they were going to have an event at the start of the early. I think the event happened in like January or something like that.
Yeah.
Right at the start of the new year to sell everybody on it. But we saw Mario Odyssey in this trailer. We saw just this quick sizzle reel of video games and what the Switch was going to look like. You guys remember that time, and what'd you think? And I want to hear about your initial purchases of your Switch and Switches to Old Man Chris there. So we can start with you, Chris. Old Man Chris, what do you think?
Sure, yeah. So, I mean, I have unashamedly been a Nintendo handheld gamer my entire life. My first brand new Nintendo, and I had an NES, but my first brand new Nintendo was a Game Boy I got for my birthday that I loved. I tell a story when I met my wife. I was playing my Game Boy Advance on a bench in college with my worm light, eating chocolate animal crackers. Like, I mean, it's just ingrained, in me, like handheld gaming. And so, there were some rumors about, the idea of them doing this portable / hybrid console for a while. And I absolutely wanted it. Like, I didn't have to think about it. Like, you didn't have to show it to me. I didn't need to see it. You just needed to say, we're going to give you a console that's going to do everything that your 3DS does, but then also plug up to your TV. That's fine. I would have pre-ordered right then. I didn't need to see it. When they showed it, I don't think in my head because again, we talked about this a little bit with the Direct, right? You have to temper your expectations with the Nintendo. Mm-hmm. So I thought it was going to be a prettier 3DS, right? But they could play on the TV, and that would be okay. Like I wouldn't have been mad about that, but like that was in my head. That's what I was thinking. I was looking at my 3DS and I was looking at games like Mario 3D Land and and Link Between Worlds and thinking, okay, it's going to just be a nicer version of this, but I can play on the TV and I can live with that. And then they showed the sizzle reel and you saw 3D Mario running around. I'm like, that's not 3D Land. Like this is like a legit console. And I think that to me, I think was the biggest surprise is that they were able to fit really console quality graphics into a small form factor, which I don't think I was fully expecting. But yeah, I mean, I was sold from the beginning. Like I was going to be there. It doesn't matter as long as they make Pokemon, as long as they make Zelda, as long as they make Mario. I'm going to be there. It doesn't make they can sell a toaster next gen, and I'll buy it. It's fine. That's fine. I'll be there. But as far as like so coming into pre-orders. We had a lot of horror stories with the PS4. And so again, we're spaced out, but when PS4 and Xbox One came out, there were a lot of horror stories going around Twitter and stuff about how pre-orders got, canceled at the last minute, or Amazon was like delayed for a long time, or all this kind of stuff. So I got like really nervous. And then I know that Nintendo likes to falsify their, supply and demand. So they like to drive, they like to keep the supply low to drive the demand up. That's how they've always done. And so I was like, oh my gosh, again, I don't want to talk about the Zelda Joy-Cons, but I'm really mad at them. And so I was like, dadgummit, they're going to be impossible to find. I'm going to be so mad. So I ended up pre-ordering 5 of them. Just because I wanted to make sure. And so obviously I wasn't going to buy 5 of them, but I wanted to absolutely make sure that I had them. So I ended up having 5 pre-orders set to go by the time launch came around. And I kept them for a long time. I got pretty close to launch because I was getting nervous. I'm like, they're going to start canceling. I'm not going to get a Switch, and I'm going to be really mad. And so I ended up giving Josh Brandt, another friend of the show, he actually wasn't able to get a pre-order, so I actually gave him one of them. And then I canceled one of the other ones, and then I only got 3. And again, I have a big family. I don't need 3 Switches. we have a lot of people playing Switches. So we got 3 in, and it was funny because the 3 that we got, I got one from Amazon, one from Walmart, and one from Best Buy. And they all came. One came from USPS, one came from UPS, one came from FedEx. So they all came at different times. So it was like when every time the door would ring, the kids. I actually took the day off. I don't remember. I think it was a weekday if I remember correctly. I think it was maybe a Friday. But I took the day off. Yeah. So I took the day off, and the kids were super pumped. And it's like every time the door would ring, we're like, "Oh, there's another Switch!" And so we went with the box together. So it was great, man. It was awesome. It was like Nintendo Christmas, and we had a blast with it. So. By the way, I got 1 gray and 2 neons because the neons are by far the better console.
March 8th and 2017. No, wait, was it March?
No, March 3rd.
Sorry, March 3rd.
March 3rd.
Yeah, that was a Friday. Yeah,
Friday. Yep.
And I remember taking. It was perfect timing for me because I remember we worked at a warehouse at the time, which was just awful, worst job I ever had. But I was making a lot of money doing it, and I took work off for the whole next week, and starting on that Friday, and we had my department was the only department in that place that was not a union, so we did not have to follow union rules, and we were putting out record numbers for the company that they'd ever done, and they gave us all a $2,000 bonus check, and I got it. They announced it literally the day before the Switch was coming out, so I had fat cash to go in there, and I bought a Pro controller. I bought all the amiibos. I bought the Zelda guidebook, and I bought just stuff I did not even anticipate buying, and it was just a glorious, glorious day.
One last little launch day thing that I wanted to share. And this is a callback to what we opened the show with, which was the loss of the Nintendo guru of Bobby. Bobby was great, but at the time I was on a couple of shows with him, and Josh Brandt is a notoriously a PlayStation guy, and so there was this whole thing where we were trying to get Josh to get a Switch, and Bobby actually said if you because at that point pre-orders were sold out, we couldn't find them, and Bobby kept telling him, if you can get a pre-order, if you get a Switch at launch, I will buy you Breath of the Wild. Wow. And so Brant took my pre-order, and he got the Switch, and to Bobby Paul's credit, he bought a Breath of the Wild. So anyway, a cool, fun launch day story. Bobby really wanted Josh, because at that point Josh was not a Nintendo guy, and so we were on shows together, and he kept saying, he's like, you need to get it, man. You need to jump in, you need to do it, and he's like, if you do it, I'll buy the game. So anyway, cool story, cool. But yeah, it was a good launch.
Well, I was going to say too, real quick, talking about Bobby, because at the time that's how we got into podcasting. I just worked at a warehouse, so all day long I listened to podcasts and YouTube videos, and I specifically, the first time I think I ever really heard about Chris White, old man Chris here, was because I was listening to Nintendo Dads, and Bobby Paws was on that, and he was talking about how Chris is crazy, and he's got 3 Switches that he's buying, and that's really kind of started the connection of how I started to find out where Chris was in his podcast, and it's just so cool to see how little things like that, and how again we'll talk more next week about how Bobby really was he is just this connecting piece that has connected so many shows and separate communities into this one big community. And Bobby Paul's, it's truly a tragedy that he's passed away, and I mean, in reality, he passed away very young in life. Yes. So but with that said, young Chris, what about you? What about that original trailer? I do remember watching that trailer and just freaking out about it. What about you and your launch day experience with the Switch?
Oh man, I mean, I just couldn't believe the amount of thought that they put into the whole concept behind the Switch and what made it unique. So when the Switch was finally released, I didn't get one on launch day. During that time, I kind of felt like I was falling out of love with games in a way. I felt like a lot of Nintendo games were starting to get a little derivative. And, you could make an argument that they are, but at the same time, they still always have that unique Nintendo magic. But, I waited a few months. I was like, I don't know, maybe this generation just isn't for me. And then when Mario Odyssey was released, and I saw the reviews, and then I saw that there was like a special Classic Mario Edition Joy-Con Switch Edition. I'm like, I need to get it right now. So I like rushed right to GameStop to get it. And I have been addicted to my Switch ever since, and I love my deep red Classic Mario Joy-Cons. Awesome. I don't even want another pair, honestly. I love all the ones that they have, like that yellow and blue, the orange and purple, the Skyward Sword ones, very cool, but like I just need my classic red Mario Joy-Cons. I love them.
I got the Mario ones too. They are the best color, for sure.
Nice.
Yeah, they just look so nice, and I'm thinking about like switching over to the new Switch, like where the Switch is actually red itself.
When I got Lindsay,
and it's like, yes, yeah, I want it so bad, but it's like, you know what? I think I need to commit to my baby, my Mario Odyssey launch day baby.
That.
I need it, so I'm gonna commit to that. But when I think of the Switch, I was kind of concerned when it was first announced, because I noticed that they're kind of doing away with the silly gimmicks that they tend to do, quote-unquote gimmicks. And I kind of like a lot of the gimmicks that they've included with these systems. I kind of liked the asymmetrical gameplay of the Wii U. I really liked 3D in the 3DS. I liked being able to blow into the microphone on my DS, like little stupid things like that. It's that Nintendo charm. So I was kind of worried that they were kind of doing away with that, but when you take a step back and the dual screens too, I was just like, how's this going to work with backwards compatibility? And I do still wonder about that, but we'll get there when we get there. But if you really think about it, the Switch is kind of the best of both worlds when we're thinking about a home console experience and a portable console experience. So it was interesting because at the time I had this belief where there are games that were designed behind a handheld experience, and there were games designed around a home console experience. And I really thought that there was a strict difference between the two. And what I thought was really interesting with the Switch is that Nintendo decided that you can decide when how you want to play the games that you want to play. If you want to play Donkey Kong 94 for the Game Boy on your TV, you can. That's not a game available on Switch, but like theoretically or hypothetically,
yeah, they gave us a virtual console, sure. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So let's go with Super Mario World. Let's say you love Super Mario World. If you want to play it on your TV, just like the old days, you can. If you want to play it in bed, you can. Yeah. And it's not going to be Nintendo or some other developer that's going to tell you, no, you need to sit down and watch and play this on a TV. You can play this game however you want. If you want to play it on a plane, if you want to play it on the TV, on the couch, if you want to play with friends, if you want to hand a friend a controller, there's all these options for you, and it's about versatility and it's about preference, and I respect that so much. It really took me some time to really understand that, but I think it's really benefited them, and I think a lot of people understand that this is a console that's for you. You play this how you want, and so that's something I think is really awesome and really appealing about the Switch in general. So I'm glad that people have caught on to that.
Cool. I mean, primarily you can play on the toilet. I mean, and that's all that matters,
yes.
Right?
That's true, yeah. Now you can take Mario Kart with you, actually, on the toilet.
That's right.
But also, I just want to mention, I'm really impressed with the technology in the Joy-Cons. Mm-hmm. I did not expect that amount of technology to be in such tiny devices. The HD Rumble, I didn't even understand what that was at the time. I'm like, what are you talking about? I can feel ice cubes. What? But you really can. You can feel in Okami, when you're Okami or Amaterasu and you're in the water, you can literally feel the waves around you with the HD Rumble. It's the craziest, most awesome sensation. It's so simple, and some people could make the argument that it's a gimmick, but it's so immersive in that way, and it kind of like replaces 3D in a way, because instead of it being 3D that you can look at, it's 3D that you can kind of feel in your hands. So, I think the Joy-Cons are really innovative and awesome.
Joy-Con drift is just the perfect feature.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Every time I start to like you a little bit, Chris, you say something that just infuriates me. The Joy-Con is the absolute worst controller in the history of video games. It is my number one problem with the Switch, and I absolutely hate them. And if they are on the Switch Pro, I'm going to drive my car off a frickin' bridge.
Well, you can borrow mine. No, I'm kidding. Wait, why though? They're like an amazing piece of technology. I don't think they're comfortable by any stretch. I think they're really uncomfortable, and I actually don't use them. But the technology that's within them, the technology in the is the same that's in the Pro controller. I use my Pro controller, but what is in the Joy-Cons, what they're able to do and capable of is extremely impressive.
I do agree. HE Rumble is fantastic. I'll give you that. And I will say that this is what what is it called? The DualSense, the new PlayStation controller does like an advanced version of this. And I'm actually, now that I'm playing my Series S, I'm a little depressed that that's not there because I hear it's really, really cool, right? And so no, I agree. HE Rumble, I'll give you that. But the Joy-Cons themselves, the fact that they are still to this day, we are celebrating the 4th anniversary of the system, and brand new Switch Joy-Cons are experiencing drift. That is a problem. That is no longer acceptable by anybody else except for Nintendo fans, and it's ridiculous. I hate them. I think that they're overpriced. I think that the rail on them is plastic, and they wear out way too fast, and they just slide off whenever you're playing. I don't like that they slide off at all. I actually prefer the Switch Lite in every single way to the system. If my Switch Lite would dock, I would never ever touch the original Switch ever again. But they take the docking feature away, and so what are you going to do? The fact that it doesn't have a D-pad. So I bought a Hori left Joy-Con that has a D-pad on it, and it's also branded after Zelda. So I mean, it's a win-win. And I play. I play because Now, you need to understand, I bought 3 Switches at launch. I bought the Mario Switch. Okay, so I have 4 standard Switches, and then we have 4 Switch Lites in the house. We have 8 Switches. Okay, I do not have one left Joy-Con in my house that does not drift. Not one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's ridiculous. I agree. I bought this Hori. No.
It's free.
No, I put them in the trash. I bought this Hori D-pad Joy-Con, and I've used this for 2 years now, and it has never once drifted. It's absolutely great. The fact that Hori can make a controller better than Nintendo is an embarrassment. Nintendo should be embarrassed. Yep. I hate the Joy-Con. I don't want them. If they're on the Switch Pro, I am going to be furious. I want to be back on the show when that happens because I want to let my fury known. Okay.
Chris's spirit.
No, I totally agree with you. It is absolutely embarrassing and unacceptable that we are still 4 years later, like you said, still having Joy-Con drift. That is so honestly like hurtful in a way, being a Nintendo fan, that they haven't even addressed this. They know this is an issue, and they know that we're going to pay $80 for these Joy-Cons, and we're just going to have to deal with it. And it makes me worry about its legacy and its collectability because there's so many amazing games, but we're not going to be able to play them, 2 years after the Switch is no longer in production? Yep. It's awful. Right. So no, I just, what I wanted to bring up is the technology in them in regards to the gyroscope and accelerometer and the HT Rumble. It's very impressive, but they got to get their act together with the joysticks and the D-pads. It's really outrageous.
And I will say, just I agree. We got 1-2 Switch at launch. That was the first game that we played because we all got in the living room, we plugged it up, we put out 1-2 Switch, and the technology that was the things you were able to do, with the technology, the ice in the cup, and and the guessing the balls game, like fantastic. Like at that moment, I was like, "This is revolutionary. This is great." And then, like 2 weeks later, when I couldn't play a game because my character walked in a friggin' circle, I was like, "What is happening?" So
right.
Anyway, but no, I agree. HE Rumble is fantastic.
Well, I think bringing up that game is a great segue into the next segment that we want to do. Chris mentioned that he was worried Nintendo was going to get away from like being unique and doing their quirky things, and I think Nintendo has shown in different projects that they are still doing that. The Switch itself, I will say, is probably the sexiest system that they've ever made. It's sleek, it looks good. When you turn it on, I mean the menu is just so. It's simple and crisp, and you just find your files. There you go. I know I do miss the charm of like having a theme in the background. I wish that they could start doing that stuff. But in general, they've done a fantastic job at making it not look like it's a Hasbro kid's toy. What the Wii U felt like,
Yes.
Right.
to being something that felt very Apple-esque. But with that, and with 1-2 Switch, well, let's talk about just some of the gimmicks that we have seen. Have the gimmicks been successful? Have they been great? Have they been okay? Have they been, what are you doing kind of crap? Or did they not explore them enough? And young Chris, let's talk about it. What are some of the things that you've really loved Nintendo has done?
So the Switch, it's an interesting console when we're talking about, the gimmicks and stuff. I get Nintendo consoles for these weird gimmicks because I just find them so charming. It's unlike anything else that you get on all these other systems, and they do them really, really well usually. So one of my favorite things that the Switch has come to offer to the market is Labo. I think Labo is absolutely genius, and it is an atrocity that it has not caught on with the public. I think that has to do with the price. $80 is very steep, but for what it is, and when you play it, it is absolutely genius. The people who have designed these things have thought so meticulously about how to incorporate the technology within the Joy-Con, and just one Joy-Con or a few, or there's a whole bunch of different things that you can do, and incorporate that into a console or device or toy or something that you create with very simple materials like cardboard and stickers and stuff, things that kids can create, and it just brings about this entirely new experience that you can be proud of because you built it. And what you are able to do with the Joy-Con is just mind-blowing. To play the piano with the Joy-Con, because the Joy-Con has that sensor in it where it can read the different chords that you're playing because of the AR sensor, IR sensor, whatever that is, infrared, I think that's it. So Labo to me is just insanely clever. And Ring Fit Adventure, I want to bring up Ring Fit Adventure. Ring Fit is it's a game that's so thoughtfully designed, because Wii Fit was really great for what it was. We have a whole episode on that, but I think they really learned what works with the typical person. They kind of incorporated more positive psychology, but it's such a showcase of what's inside that controller. Just this itty bitty controller can tell you what your pulse is. And it can detect, your body movement if you put it in two different places on your body, and it's just so cleverly designed. It's a game that you'll never be able to get anywhere else, and it's an RPG. Who would have thought that an RPG would make a perfect exercise game? But all of the elements within an RPG just line up so perfectly with an exercise game. So, I would say Labo and Ring Fit Adventure are my two favorite gimmicks that the Switch has offered. What about you, Chris White?
Yeah, so first off, we jumped into Labo too. I don't think I'm as high as on it as you are, only for the fact, well, there are two factors. One, I don't think the longevity is there with it. The games are really fun, but they just don't have a lot of legs. But the big, honestly, seriously, the biggest part for me is I don't have any room. We have a big family. We have a lot of space, and so with all that cardboard, we ended up buying like a big like a Rubbermaid storage crate and just threw it all in. But like to get it all out, we just don't have the space to keep it out. And so whenever you do get ready to play, it's like, oh, do we want to get we want to go in the garage and get it all out? It's like, no, probably not. And so we ended up not playing it as much just because it was a little bit cumbersome. I thought the fishing game was fantastic. It was my favorite. That was the one I played the most. But they're good.
So
yeah,
impressive.
but I will say beyond the actual game part, I thought the building was the highlight. Like we all did it together as a family. We had the piano, we had both of the robot and the other kit, and it was fantastic. We loved it. The kids got around the table. We all took turns, putting little, different things together. I honestly think we spent the most time racing those little remote control cars. They were just the little bug things that put you the Joy-Cons in. The kids loved just like bouncing around the table. It was super fun.
Isn't that amazing, Down?
It's
you can make something move by the vibration of the controller.
Absolutely.
It's amazing.
Absolutely. I would say I wish that was the experiment. I wish the experiment was... because obviously you can't play with a Joy-Con because the joysticks don't work. So I wish the experience was, let's put Joy-Cons on things that do stuff, like make it a real world video game, not an augment to your video game. But anyway, that's I don't work for Nintendo, so that's not what they did. But I thought level was fine. So there's not really a lot of other gimmicks I can think of. I'll say the one that came out. The last year, right? We had Mario Kart Living Room Edition, whatever that was.
Like Live Tour, whatever.
I didn't get that. See my previous answer about space. That is something that I would like to get at some point. We're actually in the process of moving, so maybe we'll have a little more space in the new house to do it. But like the whole idea, and even reviews, it's mostly good. I think that the biggest complaint that I've seen consistently through it is that there's some connectivity issue, where it kind of loses connection to the Switch, and obviously that's not good. But when it works great. And the fact that you can, I like it's a physical experience. And this goes back to Labo. One of the things that, as a parent, one of the things that you have to think about is like how much time are your kids just staring at a screen and that's the only experience they have. So to be able to kind of marry that with you're physically doing something, like the funnest part of the Mario Kart stuff is like creating your own course, like putting obstacles in the way and setting up your track, and you're actually in real life doing that. You're not just sitting on the couch staring at it, at a screen. And Labo had kind of that same feel to it too, which is really cool. And even Ring Fit, and I think that's what Nintendo's good at, is giving you an example to just get off the couch, not just be on the couch, all the time. The only other thing that I would mention, kind of along these lines, real quick, and then I'll throw it to Jacob to wrap up, is there is, and again, because we live in a house with so many Switches, I think that Nintendo wanted this to be a bigger thing than it has been, and I think it's just because you have to have multiple Switches around. But in Mario Party, and I think Mario Party may be the only game that does it. It's the only one that I'm aware of. But you can do, there are like specific mini games that you can put the systems next to each other, and they kind of talk to each other until you have an expanded screen space. And
right.
And that idea is really cool. I don't think that they've really followed up on it, and I don't know that they will again. But because we're in the house and there's so many of us, like I said, we have 8 Switches, I think, is what we have in the house now. So I mean, to have a game, even like what was the Clubhouse games, right? That just came out. Like it would be super cool if you were playing maybe like poker or something, that you would sit your Switch down and the other person was, and you would be able to have like a big poker table or something like that. I think that would be kind of cool. They haven't really used it, or at least I haven't used it outside of Mario Party. But the few little mini games that they had in Mario Party, they worked good, and it was a cool little gimmick. It was fun. The kids had fun. I don't know that, I'd play a whole game like that, but it was kind of cool.
Yeah, I think like Nintendo's just amazing. And you bring up so many good points. I really like that. You mentioned that, they are really focused on, creating these new experiences, and a lot of the experiences that they've been providing to us lately are not just things that are devoted to a screen. It takes the Nintendo experience outside of that screen and into your world with Ring Fit Adventure, Labo, the Mario Kart Tour thing. That's something that I think is that they're nailing so much more than anyone else, and they're doing such a great job at it, and it's very refreshing.
Yep. Jake, what about you?
Overall, I think that I never got Labo. I thought I just kind of saw the mess that it could become, and
come on, man, you have kids, dude. It's so much fun with the kids to be able to build something. Yeah. Oh, come on, it's great.
They're just too young. I mean,
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
They're 2 and 4 now, and Jack was just in his mother at the time. You know,
That's true.
And Riley was too. So, if they were a little bit older, I absolutely think I would have eaten that up more. But just for the time and place I think you have to be in the right space of life in order to do that stuff. And I wish we could do more with it. I wish they would do more with it. However, it's I feel like they have not done as much as we would like to see. You mentioned Mario Party, and I really feel like you want to reinvent Mario Party. I really take advantage of what they try to do with that and make a whole game out of mini games out of those Joy-Cons and doing unique little things with that. And I think they would make that game just feel not like the past, something new and fresh. And that game honestly it sold a lot, but it does not sit well in our memory banks of one of the top greatest Switch games. And I feel like they just have not fully experimented on that stuff with that. I think Ring Fit is the greatest thing they've done. I absolutely love it. I mean, I want them to do more. I would love like a Nintendo Apple Watch type of thing where it measures your heart rate more accurately.
Don't worry, it's coming. You remember, 5-10 years ago, they had that the little finger, the little it's like a sensory pulse thing.
Sensor.
I mean, at some point they're just gonna wheel in like a hospital bed with an IV in your house and be just like, live in this bed. We're gonna monitor all your vitals. I do think I could see a watch. I could see different sensors and stuff coming. Absolutely.
I would love that. And I'm glad you brought up 1-2 Switch. They haven't made a game like that since. And don't get me wrong, at the start of the system, that was not a game I wanted to see. I wanted to see the more stuff of Mario and Zelda and stuff like that. However, the
fact that we don't have a WarioWare game right now is just a slap in the face. Come on.
It's criminal.
I agree. And those Joy-Cons are prime for it.
Yeah,
for
sure.
They could do more with it. I think what they've done so far, I think Ring Fit has actually exceeded their expectations. It's sold immensely. I think that's a lot of it is due to the quarantine of last year. A lot of people were at home and they bought it to do something. So outside of that, though, I think that they have held themselves back a little bit with it. Rightfully so. It's just they haven't dived full in on like they did the Wii days, for sure.
Yeah. I think that could be credited to a couple things, though. I think they're in this weird phase where they're just trying to get out all these ports,
Yes.
all these ports that they're putting, giving us from the Wii U and whatever. They're selling well. There's no denying that, and we're just going to have to wait until they ported everything that they want, and then once that happens, they'll start transitioning into more new experiences. And I think we'll be able to see a little bit more, creativity and innovation when those titles do get released. And I think that they're a little weary to release other gimmicky titles because that kind of was detrimental to the Wii and the Wii U, because both of them were consoles that kind of relied heavily on gimmicks, and so they don't want to really put themselves in a corner with that type of focus. So I think they're playing it safe, porting games that they know are going to sell well and have mass appeal, etc., and then they're going to slowly incorporate a few more gimmicks and just a little in more clever ways. Yeah,
sure. Well, past the gimmicks, we have the future of the Switch. We have a Switch Lite, which Chris mentioned. It really does appeal to a different crowd. It was a smart move by Nintendo. And the rumors over the past year and are still going strong of a Switch Pro. Do we think this is real? Do you think it's coming soon? Or do you think it's another year or so off? And what do you want out of a Switch Pro? Old man Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely want it. I think I alluded to that earlier. I do think we're going to get it. I actually think it will be next year. I think we'll launch with Breath of the Wild, and I think it will be at the 5th year anniversary, so we'll get it March-ish next year. I think that there's been some talk about maybe it coming out now that we have the Switch Lite. It would just be like a home console. I think that that's detrimental to what Nintendo is going to want to do or try to do. So I actually think it's going to be the exact same thing. I think that the big change, of course, will be 4K on the TV. I think it will be 1080p on the screen. Unfortunately, because they like money and because Nintendo fans are loyal, they're going to keep Joy-Cons on it. Hopefully we get a Joy-Con 2.0, but still backwards compatible. So it's like, hey, if you have that box full of Joy-Cons that never worked, you can still use them if you want. But now here's something that actually does work. Right. So hopefully we get something similar to that. I would like it to be a little more gamer feeling, like I'm talking about the Joy-Cons to have a little bit more ergonomics than the ones yes. I do like that it's thin and it's very portable, but at the same time, sometimes I'm holding that beast and I'm like, man, I just wish there was a little something. I bought a Satisfy grip, which is great, but if it just had that to me is a little too bulky, right? So it's like somewhere kind of in the middle would be nice. As far as gimmicks, though, and I'll be quick, but I do think that the gimmick for because there's always going to be a gimmick. I don't think they're going to change much. I think we're going to see a camera on the backside of the Switch Pro, and I think augmented reality is going to be the big push for the Switch Pro. Cool. With a game like Pokemon Snap coming out, that imagine Pokemon Snap, but actually being in your backyard. Kind of like cool. They do with Pokemon Go, but actually being able to play, with and now imagine Mario Maker 3 in your backyard where you're building a Mario level in your backyard with your children. Fantastic. So I do think that Nintendo's played around. I don't know if you guys played that a lot with the 3DS, but like Face Raiders, which we played so much Face Raiders in our house where you would take a picture and you make, I was always the bad guy for some reason. Now that I'm thinking about this, I'm really worried about my children. Pray for me tonight. But you just go around and you shoot somebody's face, and it's just so much. It was so much fun, and so Nintendo's not done with that. So there has to be a gimmick when the Switch Pro comes out. It's not just going to be up. They're going to put something in it. My guess is an augmented reality camera in the back.
Mm-hmm. That's a really interesting idea. I could definitely see that happening. My only thought is that it seems like a lot of their more traditional games seem to be selling better. So I think they might be more focused on making it more of a traditional quote unquote hardcore-ish console. But I do hope they do something like that. That's a great, very Nintendo-y idea, and I think the time is right for that. As for my wishes for the Switch Pro, I just hope that it's more comfortable, like you said. It's a beautiful system. Like Jacob said, it's one of the best looking consoles they've ever designed. I'm really surprised, how they were able to pull off such a good looking system that's both portable and has a home console feature. So yeah, it looks great, but I don't like holding it. So that's why I play everything on the TV with my Pro Controller. It's just a lot more comfortable, but playing it in my bed would be more comfortable, but I just don't like holding it, especially with the detachable controllers. It works well enough, but it could be better. Mm-hmm. I think, just like a little handle at the end or something to grip. reliable controllers. I'm not going to go into too much depth with that because we all know about it, but the time has come for them to release a more reliable controller, and I just worry about the future of the current Switch if they don't do that. And I think my last wish, I don't really care about 4K stuff. I don't have a 4K TV, but if it can up-res to that, great. That will make its future prospects even better. I hope the battery is better, of course, although I hear the new one's pretty impressive as it is. But I just care about a better screen. It was a really nice upgrade going from the Wii U gamepad to the Switch, and it looks really, really good, but it could look better.
Sure.
And it would just be nice to have a very crisp screen when playing in portable mode. And that's it.
Cool. With a Pro, I would love a 4K graphics on the TV and the 1080, and just be able to handle. All I care about mostly is that it can do that. I wanted to bridge the gap to stay close, so third parties continue to not struggle bringing stuff over to it. That's my biggest fear, is that the gap with current gens and the current Switch is going to get so big that Nintendo is going to start to, because that's always been their Achilles heel in the past, is they have their first party, but then third parties never want to come, or you get crap third party ports or something entirely different. I'll never forget when I used to love to play Madden on the GameCube, and it went well with their ones, and then the Wii comes out, and I'm playing as Peyton Manning, and he's like a bobblehead. I'm like, what is this crap? I hated it, and I don't want Nintendo to ever go back to those days. So I just want enough horsepower in it so it can stay up with those other ones.
Hey, Jacob, have you played any of the cloud-based games?
I played a little bit of that Red game.
Control?
Yeah. I played a little bit of it. I haven't really dove too much into it, but a little bit of it, yeah.
So so to answer your question, they're not, or to answer your statement, they're not going to be able to keep up with third party traditionally. But I do think that the Switch Pro will ship with a fantastic modem, like antenna built in, and I think that they are going to push to bring those experiences cloud based, and I think you're going to see parity with things like Assassin's Creed and and things like Control, and and I think that you will start seeing more parity with that, but coming through a cloud service, maybe Game Pass, but we'll see.
Hey,
right?
I would love that,
but I mean, if they do that, hopefully we'll have antennas that make the online experience with the Switch much better. If 3D World is having issues with online, that is embarrassing, and you need to upgrade that immediately. That is not a technically demanding game, so that needs to get fixed.
Well, that's a good point. I mean, we've praised the Switch a lot, and there's a lot, rightfully so, to be praised. Nintendo's doing so much great, and at the end of the day, it's their content of video games that they've put out there, but I know we wanted to talk, and we won't spend too much time on it, but just some negatives. We've already bashed the Joy-Cons enough, I think. But
sorry, that was my fault.
No, it's okay.
It was needed.
One thing I have had an issue with Nintendo is that although we love these old games, and I know the Wii U did not sell well, I really feel like the Switch would be in some deep crap right now if they didn't have those Wii U ports. Question is, would they have put the emphasis that they did to put the teams that put work into porting those games and the content? Would we have more traditional Switch games? That's my problem. Is I look at my library, and half of my library is games that I already own on another system, and I'm like, I want more original content that was directly made for my Switch. I feel like that's a kind of an issue, I guess I take. Even though Nintendo don't care because they're selling millions of copies, and so I understand it. But just as a Nintendo fan, I really feel a little bit sad that I don't have a whole library. I feel like the library could be bigger of stuff that was designatedly made for the Switch. Do you guys have an issue with that, or is that just more me?
Yeah, here's my take on that, though, Jacob. I think for me the problem is, so my biggest obviously disappointment was the Joy-Con, but my second was Virtual Console. That's the problem. The problem is it's insane to me that we're at year 4 and we don't really have a proper Virtual Console. Right. We have SNES Online and NES Online. Now, I would be perfectly fine if they want to just put it as part of the service and they just give us all the games. That's fine. But I would also just be fine going back into a Virtual Console. And if I want to, buy GameCube game, like I want to play Beautiful Joe. Like, why can't I play Beautiful Joe on my Switch? Like, there's no reason other than them just not giving it to me, right? Yeah. Are they going to remake it one day? Probably. And will I buy it? Probably. But I would probably also buy it both ways anyways, So it's like, I agree with you that I would like to see resources being given to more newer or different ideas, and I do agree with that. But I think that is offset if you just give us the games. Like I didn't need Super Mario Sunshine in the 3D collection. Just give me access to a GameCube Virtual Console where I can buy Super Mario Sunshine. Like, how hard is that? I mean, it was on the Wii or on the Wii U. Like, the fact that it's not there is crazy.
Yeah. I mean, I could see Beautiful Joe being ported to the Switch, but by Capcom, not so much in like a Virtual Console thing. But Jacob, I'm 100,000% with you with your concern. It's like I mentioned before, they're kind of just in a phase where they're getting all these ports out, and it's been weird because the original games that they have developed for the Switch have been mixed to me. Some of them have been mediocre, like Yoshi's Crafted World. I love Yoshi's Woolly World, and Yoshi's Crafted World it has a really cool premise, but they could have done a little bit more with that and made the music less obnoxious. And Kirby's Star Allies, looks great, but it's not Robobot.
No, it's pretty boring actually.
So. Yeah, I don't know. So it's been a mixed bag, and I do wish that they had more teams focus on more original content. And I've mentioned this a few times. Their teams for their handheld consoles and their home consoles are now under one roof. Right. Why aren't we getting as much games as the both of those were combined at the time? It just seems like we're just getting the same amount that a typical home console gets. Sure. So where's the rest? I think we're going to get more in time. Obviously, it's just really frustrating to, get the same games that we've been given and we have already bought as Nintendo fans, and it just feels like our loyalty is taking a while to be rewarded. So, we'll get it in time. We just got to be patient.
I do kind of feel like as we're closing out, like almost every single Wii U quality game has been ported to this point. I think you're going to see, the Zelda games over now this year. But I do kind of feel like with the launch with the inevitable Switch Pro, I think we're going to basically see like almost like a relaunch, a second wave of Mario Odyssey 2, Breath of the Wild 2 is already on the way. You're going to get the Prime 4 games. Like, we're just going to see like a second life. And that's why I kind of going back to my thought process of could this outsell the PS2 numbers? I think if you have a whole, basically almost a fresh restart, it's only going to add to it. But what about you, Chris?
Well, I just have a quick question for you guys. So would you guys prefer that the next Switch that they launch, the Switch Pro, would you rather it be the Switch 1.5 or would you rather it be the next Switch? And it just be like this incremental thing where every few years we get the next generation in a way, kind of like the Xbox One X kind of was, It's kind of like in between those worlds of being next gen and previous.
Yeah,
gen.
I think Nintendo is following a very Apple playbook so far. So I could see them basically releasing a Switch every 5 years, and it just be and they'll call it something stupid, new Sunshine in the Sky Switch 2,
like that. Featuring Knuckles.
Yeah. So they'll always come up with some dumb name to do it, but. But I do think that at least for the foreseeable future, I think that's the plan. I actually don't see Nintendo releasing a new console unless it is a different console. I don't see them jumping to a brand new model unless they just introduce something brand new. And so I think that, and they may call it Switch. They will never call it Switch 2. I wish they would call it Super Switch. That'd be fantastic.
I do too.
But it'll be called New Switch. I mean, honestly, that's probably what it's going to be called. Just get ready for it. It's going to be probably called New Switch. I don't think it's going to be called Switch Pro. I think we call it that because it's going to be an upgrade, but it's definitely not going to be called that. I think it will be called New Switch, and I think that it will be basically the same thing. I think that we'll have an advanced Joy-Con, set like we talked about. I think it's going to add a camera and then better graphics, and a little stronger horsepower, probably a little bit better life. It's just going to be an incremental upgrade, just like the iPads are every 1 to 2 years, and that's fine. That's fine. I'll buy every 5 years, if they give me a little bit of a better Switch, I'll buy it every time.
I will too. I actually prefer that model, and it honestly just kind of feels like a modern version of going from a NES to a Super NES, and I think that's really cool. And I guess to capitalize on what we've talked about with the Switch, that's what I've always felt like. I felt like the Switch is the best, a little bit of all of its past Nintendo systems. I felt like it's got a little bit of everything in it. And even in that presentation, they highlighted every single system they ever released and kind of compared them all of why the Switch is like an all-in-one deal type of thing. So, if you guys have any other comments on that, I want to get our top 5 Switch games that have come out, and then we can close out this long episode.
Sorry. I haven't been on for a while, Jacob. So I told you I was pumped. I had a lot to say. So sorry.
And you did, and you have done a great job, and we're glad to have you on. Let's start with you, Chris. Why don't we go ahead, start from number 5 and whittle it down to number 1.
Okay, so you want old Chris or young handsome Chris?
Old Chris.
Old Chris. Okay. Chris. Now, so you want me to give you all 5 just from me? Okay. So this is actually very hard. One of the things that I did try to do was I tried to just pick not remakes, because I would probably put Pikmin on my list because Pikmin 3 was fantastic, and the 3D World is also brilliant. But so I tried to not do remakes. So at number 5 I have Golf Story. We've already talked about that a lot. I love Golf Story. It's my favorite indie game on the system. Fantastic. At number 4, I put Mario plus Rabbids Kingdom Battle. Again, call back to earlier, strat RPGs are my absolute favorite genre of game. And so I was not expecting to like this game at all, because I absolutely detest Rabbids. But I jumped in and I love it. I've beat it, I think 3 times. I love it. It's so good. It's really great. And speaking of, we need another of these games. It's prime for a sequel. At number 3, I have Odyssey. Odyssey is not my favorite Mario game, but I love it. It looks great. It's Mario. It plays great. I think there's some great stuff in it from start to finish. I don't really have any complaints about it, and it's great. It's 3D Mario. I mean, you can't really say much about that. My number 2 game was Pokemon Sword and Shield. I'm a huge Pokemon fan. I think Sword and Shield may be my second favorite Pokemon game of all time, behind Gold and Silver. It's great. I love it. I still play it on a weekly basis, if not sometimes daily. On a weekly basis, I still jump in. I do max raid battles. I go around and do stuff. I just completed the Tundra stuff with a big fluffy head guy. Now, look, I'm a huge Pokemon fan, but I'm not like a crazy Pokemon fan. I don't remember all their names. I just know floaty head guy who sits on a horse, has a giant head. Deer guy, he's great. Just caught him. Finished the Tundra DLC. But yeah, I love Pokemon Sword and Shield. I thought it was great. I'm excited to jump into the Diamond and Pearl remakes. That's great. Yeah. Pokemon Legend looks great. That's fine. But I'm excited for the next proper Pokemon, whatever that's going to be. And then number 1 has to be is Breath of the Wild. And Breath of the Wild is absolutely my favorite game of all time. It is top to bottom. It is brilliant. I love it. I play Zelda. I know that it gets a lot of knocks for not having Zelda dungeons, and I get that.
Music.
And but the way they do music is very, cool.
Sure.
By not having it?
Yeah, I mean, but like that's like Zelda Breath of the Wild more than any game to me felt like an experience. Like, I mean,
it was.
You know,
No,
it
I
was so
I'm
good.
just kidding.
But no, I agree. It did seem weird sometimes. Like, why do we not have music? And the dungeon thing doesn't bother me, too much. You just get lost in that world, and I've put well over 100 hours into it, and every now and then I'll log in and just run around and just see what kind of shenanigans I can get up to. It's a fantastic game. My favorite game of all time.
Cool.
Awesome.
Well, young Chris.
Good picks.
Young, handsome Chris.
I like all these adjectives that we're adding to my name. Except anyone who's listening, if they saw me, they'd be like, whoa, I don't know about that.
This is why we're audio podcast only, Chris. Okay, we don't know you.
They'd be like, I'd use some other words, but sure. So these are games that are special to me, that they make the Switch special. They give this unique identity to the Switch, and they're experiences that I'll just always never forget. So it's not like an objective list of the best games ever, but I have adored my time with Labo. It is a very childish thing, but honestly, it's very relaxing. It's kind of like Legos, every once in a while I'll just pick up like a Lego set and build them and just have like an adult beverage and relax, and it's very fun. And I've done the same thing with Labo, and it's just very fun to create all these silly little experiments that they have for you, and it's great. You can't get that anywhere else, and we may not ever get that again, and it's really unfortunate, but I've really cherished my time with building these
You
things.
have to tell us, like, what is your favorite one? I mean, there's a ton of different games. Like, what is the one you really... Like, I told you mine was fishing. I love the fishing game. So, like, what would you say is, like the one, like, the best one?
Ooh, you know what? I think I'm gonna say fishing as well. I haven't got. I've gotten like I've only gotten like halfway into the second one, the robot one. So I haven't been able to play that one yet. I do have 3 and 4, like the vehicle one and the VR one. I feel like those will probably be my favorites, but it's just been fun to discover what they have. And so far I'd say the fishing one. Like that really caught me by surprise to like bring this simulation of fishing into like with your Switch screen and a Joy-Con and like this cardboard thing that you're holding, and it's legit and it's very fun. It's super impressive, and I just think that Labo is just so awesome for like a STEM activity. Not just for me obviously, but for kids, and I just think it's important to have something like that out there and really flesh out your system in that way.
Very cool.
Hat in Time is my number 4 pick. Jacob and I really long for the days of these golden age 3D platformers and collectathon games, and I think A Hat in Time not just nails that feel, but adds a bit of unique flavor to it too. And it really pushes 3D platformers as well. They have all these unique ideas, like the contracts, and you can pick these different paths, and I just really appreciate the thought that they've put into that. My number 3 pick is, surprisingly, Adventure Pals. I don't know if you guys have ever played Adventure Pals, but it's basically like Yoshi's Island, but with Adventure Time looking graphics in a way.
It's great.
And it's colorful, it's fun, it's very simple, and they have pretty cool level design, and just it's very silly and fun to collect stuff. Number 2 is Ring Fit Adventure. I've talked about it a million times, and I'm just super impressed with what they were able to do with the controllers and capabilities that they're limited to. And it's fun. It's a great exercise game. And my favorite game, and I've mentioned this a couple times so far today, Killer Queen Black.
Wow.
It's
All right.
a genre, It's a genre that I thought I would have zero interest in, but I'm so addicted to it. Everyone who walks past my room is probably sick of the guitar song that they have, and I'm just like always screaming at the controller, and it's just such a rush, and it just makes me love video games. It makes me love how simple they can be, but how much complexity they can have too, and that drive to master what you're playing. So I just love it. It's very silly, and it's a great experience, and I highly recommend it.
It's a great list, man. That's cool.
That's good and very unique.
Yep.
Thanks.
Okay, so from descending order, this is a hard list to put together golly gee, I don't even know. I'm kind of questioning my number order right now.
Just as a reminder, Diddy Kong is not on the Switch because the Switch is a good console. So don't make sure that's not on your list.
Well, you're lucky that it's not, because it would be number one.
That's right. It would be number one,
kidding.
probably. So it's just kind of a. I don't know how to describe this, because this game is like in my top 5 and probably of all time. And I've already talked about it today, but I'm putting number 5 as Undertale. Again, if you guys have not played the game, play it and get deep, and you need to play it after you do research, after you've completed a regular playthrough, and go back, do some research, and then do another run, and you guys will be blown away. I mean, the game, I can't even... I'd be on for another 2 hours if I could talk about it in depth. We have an Undertale episode. Go back and check it out. Number 4, Smash Bros. Ultimate. I think it's the best Smash that's ever been created. And there's still a couple things that I wish we had with it that they don't. But just the character representation and the fact that, my all-times, the ones I've wanted my entire life, all for the most part, all got put in here. Banjo-Kazooie, King K. Rool got put in here, and even Dark Samus. I've been advocating her since the GameCube days, and she got put in there as a character, as shadow character. So the list goes on, but I think that game is just fantastic. I'm not as good as I used to be, and I don't play it that much anymore because it's not fun by yourself, and when I do play other people, I suck because you have to have time to be good. But I do...
And the online is not the best.
No. So I put that up there as number 4. Number 3, Mario Rabbids blew me away. Another tactical game I never thought I would enjoy. It reminded me a lot of Fire Emblem, and I do not have a history of enjoying Fire Emblem at all. And I really loved this game. It was basically what they needed, what Fire Emblem needs. It just appealed to my personality and my interests. And with Grant Kirkhope doing the music, I really felt the love of Banjo-Kazooie fans in there. And it felt like a game that Rareware from the past would have made if they were still with Nintendo. And then not to mention the fact that they added in Donkey Kong Country DLC. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my gosh. The game just blew me away, and I really want a sequel. Honestly, I would love to just have a sequel of just all Donkey Kong characters and different Kongs. And I think it could be way more unique than just with Mario characters. So I want to see a sequel of that.
Yeah, that game should not have been as good as it is, and I'm glad that it's sold well and getting the reception that it deserves, and that they just pulled it off. It's such a they did such a great job with that game. So
yeah,
cool.
Real quick, I think that a sequel will be great. I mean, they brought in DK. I like the idea of just it being Kingdom Battle and just bringing in making it Kingdom Hearts. You know. Just bring in Zelda, bring in Star Fox.
No.
Yeah, dude. Every level, visiting a different Nintendo property. No, I'm all there. It doesn't matter. Just bring it.
That's cool. Yeah,
I could see that.
Yeah, you can keep Sora out of it, but
no. I just meant cool. Marrying the properties. No Kingdom Hearts.
Right.
Okay, cool. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
Same idea. Number 2 is Breath of the Wild. It'll go down, and every time I think of the Switch, I think of Breath of the Wild because that was the launch game, the build-up for it, the E3 before that. That's all they only talked about Breath of the Wild, which was sad, but at the same time was really cool. We learned so much about that game. What Chris said,
still lived up to the hype. Come on, it still lived up to the hype. How often does that actually happen? Kind of love that game.
It truly is a masterpiece, and will forever be in my memory bank as one of those with nostalgia. We'll be talking about that in episode 30 or season 30, whatever. But and then Mario Odyssey is my number 1. Just I love 3D platformers. I think it set the standard of what 3D platformers should be like. And if you're going to make one, you need to be able to match this or do it better than Mario Odyssey. But it just felt good, and it did so many things right. I loved it. I liked it through and through. Mario 64 was always my favorite Mario game, and Mario Odyssey basically took all of that love and added it to modern times. So, real quick, without any explanation, guys, just do your 5 honorable mentions, or a couple honorable mentions that you have, and then we'll wrap it up here. And we can start with young Chris here.
Oh boy, so many. I would say Splasher. It's that game that I mentioned before. It's just a phenomenal 2D game that kind of incorporates. Oh yeah, sorry, we shouldn't be explaining. But if you like Splatoon and you like platformers, get Splasher. Tiny Barbarian, another phenomenal 2D platformer. Let's see, Monster Boy and the Cursed Kingdom. I think that's what it's called. It's like a Wonder Boy game. So good. Guacamelee. You can get a 2-pack with both those games. Phenomenal Metroidvanias. And I'm going to say 98 Heroes. 98 Heroes is a game where you get a different character and each time you play a level, and you just try to beat these levels with all these kooky 80s spin-off characters. It's very good.
I got to say, man, younger, attractive, charming Chris has such a great list of like very obscure and games I wouldn't have either identified or some of them I haven't even played before. So kudos to that. For mine, I'll go quick. Luigi's Mansion 3 is fantastic. It looks great. It is super fun, and Luigi is the best, man. I love Luigi. Link's Awakening. I'm getting a huge Zelda fan. Love Link's Awakening, and the remake they did on that is just gorgeous. And then I already said Chroma Squad when we were talking about indie games, but again, I'm a strat RPG guy, so I would say Chroma Squad and Wargroove, both fantastic games, and strat RPGs. Yes. And then finally, I would just say Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. I think it got some bad press, but I loved Alliance 1 and 2, and I don't think 3 is as good as those, but I'm a huge Marvel fan, and I had a ton of fun with that game, and it's 4-player couch co-op, and so I think it's 4-player couch. It's at least 2-player. I think we played 4. Anyway, it's fantastic. It's a great game.
Great picks. Good.
And then, Luigi's Mansion 3, amazing, standard.
So
the cutscenes, wow. Fantastic game, fun game. Ukulele Impossible Lair, basically Donkey Kong Country. And since they don't seem to be wanting to make any of those right now. Astral Chain, unexpected game that blew me away. Was truly, truly impressed with that game. I loved it. I thought it was really cool. Ring Fit Adventure, and then Link's Awakening, the remake, was awesome, and I wish Nintendo would just remake every Game Boy game and make it modern.
All of them.
I would love to play Mario Land games remade in some unique, cool art style. So, but with that said,
one more.
Go for it.
Yoku's Island Express. Yoku's Island Express is amazing. Pinball Metroidvania, amazing music, very cool characters, super happy. Yoku's Island Express, get it.
Got it, good. Well, with that said, young, handsome, attractive to all the ladies out there, Chris, why don't you do our due diligence?
Oh man, I should record with you guys more. Thank you guys very much for listening. Thank you for, I know it's been a long episode, but we hope you enjoyed it. If you did enjoy today's episode, we would really appreciate it if you could leave us a review on whatever podcast services you're using. It gives us lots of exposure and helps us get the what we need to make even better episodes for you. If you want to interact with us, you can leave us a voicemail at 317-969-5690, and we'll be leaving in our Facebook group what our next topic is going to be. So you can find us on our Facebook group at Nintendo Nostalgia Chat, and on Twitter you can find us by our handle, which is at Nintendo_NOS. We're also on Instagram, and you can find us at Nintendo NOSIN, and that's all one word. And if you want to send us an email instead of a voicemail, you can do that too. So our email is nintendonostalgiain, and that's one word. So nintendonostalgiain@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from our fans. Please reach out to us and see us on any social media group or service that you use. We'd love to hear from you guys and interact with you. And we hope to hear from you soon.
Thank you guys. And Chris, thanks for coming. Old man Chris, thanks for coming back on. We'll love to have you back on again real soon too. Hopefully sooner than the last time. And we appreciate you, man.
Thanks, man.
Yeah, it was great meeting you.
Yeah, no, you as well. I'm glad I was. Listen, the Switch is my favorite console of all time. I think it's brilliant. And happy 4th birthday to the Switch. I'm excited for 4 more years. So thanks for having me on to talk about it. I love it.
Amen.
Yep. Here's to the future. Yep.
All right, everybody. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye, everyone. Later, Preston.
No.